He just got life in prison, and his reaction, absolutely chilling.
This is Christopher Watts, convicted of murdering his pregnant wife and their 2 children in Colorado. Shanann Watts was 15 weeks pregnant with their 3rd child when she and the 2 daughters didn't show up for a doctor's appointment. So her friend Nicole called police for a welfare check. Reportedly, Watts at first told authorities he had no idea where they were and even cooperated with the investigation, giving police permission to search his home.
This is what we need to be real careful about.
But as investigators dug into phone records and surveillance, the pressure closed in, and he confessed to the murders. He admitted that he had been planning the murder for weeks, but after a confrontation about wanting a separation, he strangled Shanann, then suffocated the little girls with a blanket after disposing of their mom's body.
So once again, was it hand over her face? Was it?
There was a blanket over and my hand.
And then your hand.
He then led investigators to a shallow grave where Shanann was buried and told them he put his daughters' bodies in oil tanks on his former employer's property. Here you see Shanann's father calling Chris a monster.
You heartless monster. You have no heart or feelings or love. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul.
The judge then reads the sentence.
With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections.
And as the sentence sank in, you can see his legs shaking uncontrollably beneath the table. He now serves multiple life sentences in a maximum security prison with no possibility of parole. This is Timothy Bleefnick, convicted of murdering his estranged wife Becky when he was seeking to escape their divorce. Timothy had appeared on Family Feud, where he joked that his biggest mistake on his wedding night was saying, "I do."
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. Not my mistake. I love my wife.
Shortly before Becky disappeared, a disturbing Google search history showed he had looked for how to make a homemade silencer.
This phone shows searches for the following: how to open my door with the program, how to make a homemade pistol silencer.
Reportedly, Timothy bought bicycles under the fake name, rode to Becky's house, climbed to a second-story window with a crowbar, broke in, and shot her 14 times.
He pulled the trigger not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 14 times.
Becky's father later discovered her body when she failed to pick up the children from school.
I ran up the stairs, and since she supposedly was sick, I went to the bedroom to see if she was laying down. Didn't see anything in her bedroom, went into the attached bathroom, and that's when I found her body lying on the floor. She looked like she was dead.
Timothy maintained his innocence throughout the trial, declining to testify in his own defense. Forensic evidence proved shell casings found at the crime scene matched 27 casings discovered in Timothy's basement. Also, his fitness tracker showed gaps in activity that corresponded with times he was riding to Becky's house. Prosecutors alleged that the defendant wanted to avoid paying child support and maintenance in their divorce. Becky's mother didn't hold back her anger as she made a statement.
Your soul is black with hate. Your heart has only love for itself. You should never be allowed to be free again.
The jury found him guilty of all counts brought before him.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Timothy Bleefnick, guilty of first-degree murder, signed by the 4-person and 11 jurors.
Timothy showed no visible reaction as the guilty verdict was read. During sentencing, the judge loudly counted from 1 to 14 to emphasize each bullet Timothy fired into his wife.
And you shot her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times.
The judge sentenced him to natural life in prison with no possibility of parole. This is Scott Peterson, who was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife Lacey Peterson and their unborn son Connor at their home in California. Peterson reported Lacey missing on Christmas Eve, claiming she disappeared while he was on a fishing trip, then later attended a party as if nothing had happened.
A man not looking for
caring about his missing pregnant wife, but a man who was more interested in our attractive babysitter.
However, months later, the bodies of Lacey and baby Connor washed ashore near the very location where Peterson said he had been fishing that day. He was later arrested and charged for murder after investigators uncovered his affair with Amber Fry, a massage therapist he had told he was a widower before Lacey even disappeared.
Scott told me he was not married.
During the trial, prosecutors argued that Peterson killed his wife to escape his marriage and pursue his relationship with Fry.
You know, what really struck me in listening to those tapes is how little Scott Peterson cared about his wife and child.
Peterson maintained his innocence throughout the proceedings, claiming he had nothing to do with Lacey's disappearance.
I wasn't the last one to see Lacey that day. There were so many witnesses who saw her walking in the neighborhood after I left.
He also claimed the murder was connected to burglary across the street.
The cops just never followed up on the burglary across the street. The police failed to find my family.
The jury then read their verdict.
We find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder of Lacey Denise Peterson.
However, the verdict wasn't what he expected, and this was his reaction.
I was staggered by it. I had no idea it was coming.
The judge sentenced Peterson to death. However, his death sentence was later overturned, and he was resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is Jeffrey Ferguson, a former judge convicted of murdering his wife Cheryl Ferguson at their home in California after 27 years of marriage.
Never in a million years would imagine that, especially a judge. I mean, that's the surprising part of it all. Makes you really think about who your neighbors and everything is.
Reportedly, the two had been arguing about family finances and gratitude from Jeffrey's adult son from a prior marriage. The argument escalated at a Mexican restaurant where Jeffrey made a hand gesture mimicking a gun.
It got so bad, at one point, the defendant in anger made a fake gun motion as if he was shooting her.
At their home later that evening, the couple continued watching a movie with their son Philip when the argument resumed. Cheryl challenged her husband to point a real gun at her, and Jeffrey pulled his Glock from his ankle holster and shot her. Immediately after the shooting, Philip tackled him to wrestle the gun away and performed CPR on his mother as he called 911.
Do you know her? My father. Is she conscious awake?
Mom, can you hear me? Mom, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't think so.
After his arrest, Jeffrey made a short confession.
I did it.
Video footage showed investigators carrying rifles and boxes labeled armor from the home. Throughout the trial, Jeffrey maintained that it was an accident, claiming he fumbled the gun and it discharged unintentionally due to an injured shoulder.
The evidence is also going to show, without question, that it was an accident.
However, prosecutors presented evidence including his extensive firearms training as a judge and former prosecutor, and his blood alcohol level of .17. The jury then read their verdict.
Count 1, second-degree murder. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Jeffrey Malcolm Ferguson, guilty of the crime of murder.
During sentencing, Cheryl's brother Larry asked the judge for leniency, saying he believed it was an accident.
I know in my heart, and there's nothing that anyone's going to say that's going to change my opinion. I know in my heart you didn't intend to kill my sister. I know that. I know that this was a tragic accident. It was probably a stupid decision to have the gun out when it was.
The judge sentenced Jeffrey to 35 years to life in prison. At 74 years old, Jeffrey will spend the rest of his life behind bars in a California state prison.